You guys can hear my voice? There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, how are we feeling? Oh, come on, come on. We went over this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, how are we feeling? There we go, there we go. Okay, I'm back to do another 40-minute keynote, right? No, please. I actually have the honor of bringing onto stage two incredible individuals. Now, the first individual I'm going to bring in has been the CEO of Chewy since 2018, leading it through its $1 billion IPO, growing revenue to over $11 billion, and expanded internationally in 2023. Under his leadership, Chewy has earned global recognition, including Fortune's World's Most Admired Company of 2024, and Forrester's Top Customer Experience Brand for 4 consecutive years. Those of you that were listening to my talk this morning, that's an incredibly tough thing to achieve at scale, and they've been able to do it. Now, with over 20 years of experience spanning Amazon, Dell, and of course, Chewy, this individual has been featured on prestigious lists such as Bloomberg's 50 Most Influential People and NRF's People Shaping Retail's Future. Ladies and gentlemen, when you've achieved this much, we don't just call you one of America's most recognizable and admired CEOs, we call you Sumit Singh. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we bring him onto stage. Sumit, please take a seat. You're gonna stand here a little awkwardly while I do the next introduction from there, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please, once again, a round of applause for Sumit coming in today. There we go, there we go. Now, the next individual we're about to bring onto stage is a serial e-commerce entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in digital and retail. This individual has driven over $1 billion in sales. Ladies and gentlemen, that's with a B, $1 billion in sales for consumer and luxury brands. Known for her no-nonsense consulting, this individual was once dubbed the rule breaker of e-commerce by Forbes Retail. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're one of the first architects of the e-commerce ecosystem, we don't just call you one of the original founding members. We call you Heather Nidro. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Heather.
Thank you.
Heather. And from this point forward, ladies and gentlemen, I pass the mic on to Heather. Take care, y'all. Yeah. Hello.
Hi, Sumit. We are so honored to have you here today at Meet Magento, Florida. I can't believe 20 years in online retail. It must have been a pretty amazing journey, and you're seeing so much happening.
It's nice to be here. I think we are lucky to be living in the era that we are living. The last 20 years has been disruptive, but I think with the AI boom that we're seeing right now, and which will continue for the next several years, it's going to be transfigurative. So lucky to be live during this time.
One question I want to ask you is, what should brands focus on to stay ahead of what's happening with AI?
Right now there's 3 types of, we were having this conversation inside the company just last week, and essentially the way that I think about it is there's 3 types of people or 3 groups right now. Those who have, tremendous, those are on the conservative side of the prediction and are still yet to sort of believe in either the gravity of it or the reality of it or the future of it. Then there's the middle team that is either that has FOMO or that still hasn't made up its mind on which side do they want to lean on. And then there are, those in the camp of fully sort of committed to it. And there's some debates on, the good and the bad and the ugly, but for the most part, these folks are fully committed into the power of AI and what it will generate and how it will change the future and all that stuff. So I find myself in the third camp with the admission that I don't really know what this will bring in the future. Nobody knows. It's evolving too quickly. It's changing too fast. The most we can look forward is right now 2 or 3 years before it completely disrupts itself, perhaps again. Think about it this way. This is a team that is likely, or a group that is likely tech savvy. We've all heard of Moore's Law. And so the power of transistor doubling every 18 months to 2 years, AI agents are doubling every 6 months. And so if you put that in context, what that means is that for those who were born in the 80s and have seen the internet era and the e-commerce revolution, everything that you've seen in the last 40 years, right, this new technology will achieve in the next 7 years. That's how disruptive it is. And so it isn't wise, in my opinion, to bet against it. Betting against it would be like betting against automobiles when we were, transitioning from horse carriages, or betting against electricity when we were transitioning from candles, and so forth and so on. So how do we? So first thing that you do is you acknowledge it. So back to your question on, what do brands like us do? First is you acknowledge it for what it is, which is amazing, revolutionary, alongside some guardrails that need to be put around it and that need to be provided to the team so that there's a conscious effort to protect data, to keep, IP secure for the company, but at the same time to unleash or ride this wave of innovation and disruption. And you'd better enable it, because for the percentage of the company that is in this camp of believers, right? You want to find more believers in your organization to be able to either use or harness the power of a tech like this to improve customer experience, lower your cost, improve productivity, all of the above, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how we're thinking about it.
It's exciting to see adoption in companies like Chewy and how you will be using it in the future. Now, with customers seeking brands that align with their values, what role do purpose and mission play in building trust and loyalty in e-commerce?
So, first of all, let me say, I feel people have values, brands should have behaviors. Values are abstract, behaviors are concrete. And so a brand might say that we, value customer service or customer experience. But if you call and their customer service is slow or unhelpful, then clearly it doesn't translate to them living up to values, right? Behaviors, on the other side, are demonstrated via the speed of service, the helpfulness of service, first contact resolution type metrics, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like brands should focus on behaviors. And the behavior of an organization, is embedded in the culture, the mission, the purpose of an organization. Or rather, if it is not embedded, it's helpful to connect the mission and the purpose to the behaviors. So if you think about Chewy's mission statement or our purpose, they're likely the same, which is to be the most trusted, convenient destination for pet parents and partners everywhere. It sounds like a simple line, but if you break it down into words of trusted and convenient, that many brands feel are their values, we feel, our behavior should lead to trust and convenience. Destination for pet parents and partners, because we recognize, for those of you in the audience, I'm guessing 2/3 of you have pets, given that's the stats in the United States. So if we poll, there's 2/3 of the audience here that has pets. And so you all realize as pet parents that pet parenting is more than just food and supplies. There's the entire health need. There are services needs that pets have, et cetera. And then everywhere represents our ambition for the brand to be present outside the United States. So everywhere represents the dimension of, transcending geography. It also represents the dimension of transcending just e-commerce. So notice that in that mission statement, there's no word e-commerce, right? And now via the launch of our health clinics, we've stepped outside of e-com and into a very physical retail presence per se. So I guess a mission purpose like that is important because it's not abstract. Our team members can find themselves in it. You are working to create a destination for pet parents and partners. You're working to expand our presence. You're working to earn customer trust so that we can be more trusted. And you're working to create an engine that perpetuates convenience in the way that customers interact with us. So I find that it is more and more helpful to have a purpose like this where team members can align behind. And if you do that right, then I feel like the product that you take to market serves customers well. And if you do those two things right, then ultimately I believe that it also should serve your shareholders well. So customer, team members, and shareholder values in this particular case should all be aligned. And in my opinion, that's how you do it.
And thinking about your career spanning from Amazon to Dell, now Chewy, really driving transformation, what leadership lessons have had the greatest impact on Chewy's success? And what advice would you offer aspiring leaders in retail and technology?
Yeah, so I mean, we're all a product of our experiences. Some of mine might be applicable to you, some might not be. I started my career in operations and supply chain, and so I understand that side of the house really well. And then I expanded my career internationally, and then through kind of business and general management and so forth and so on. I guess if I were to speak from what would benefit perhaps the audience the most, it doesn't really matter what sector, what industry, or where you are in your career leveling. What I find different, once you're past the basic requirements of working hard, humility, which is totally underrated in my opinion, curiosity. I think the practical nuance of it comes down to how good a communicator are you, especially at leadership levels. And the other thing that I would say is that it depends on what type of a leader do you want to be. And I feel like there's a bit of a crisis sometimes in leadership in corporate America, where leaders somehow feel that they're too far removed from the team. They are responsible for just the strategy, and it is the rest of the team that will implement perhaps their vision. That actually is not true. I feel a leader is one that can communicate effectively, kind of broadly across to perhaps shareholders, but also all the way down, up and down, through their leadership chain. And I feel that's a pretty important lesson to learn as you're navigating your careers or navigating your ventures or navigating your investments. The second thing that I think I've learned, which should be passed on, is the power of aligning your mission and purpose to what customers want, or a product that customers will desire, and the how do you get customers to trust your brand in a way that even when they have alternate choices available, like at Chewy, you can buy dog food anywhere. You can buy it at Amazon, you can buy it at Walmart, you can go to a Petco and a PetSmart. And yet, we've grown the fastest in the pet industry. We've shaped the health sector in the industry, and we've taken share and continue to do so from the stalwarts of the world in a way that our customers trust us and provide us with their loyalty. So I feel those elements are super helpful as you transcend the ladder or transcend kind of the opportunities.
With great opportunity comes great challenges at times. And looking ahead, what do you see the biggest opportunities and challenges coming next for e-commerce in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think the word e-commerce, you and I were talking about this a couple of minutes ago. So I feel e-com, if we just said e-commerce, we should say retail in general. Because customers, when they're shopping your product, they don't necessarily think about, I am an e-commerce customer or I'm a retail customer. They're essentially picking a channel. They're demonstrating, they're betting, their preference or they're voting their preference. And they will ultimately gravitate to where they find the most amount of convenience or the most bang for the buck or the most kind of alignment with, you said, values. So let's kind of use that word. So to me, I feel the challenge for companies is always losing sight of what their strengths are and how they can continue to retain customer trust. So there are many, business models will continue to get emulated. So companies should focus on innovation, the speed of innovation. So if you can innovate faster than the next person who's going to solve the same problem, that's a pretty good recipe. Or you have a product around which you can create a moat where you can keep customers locked into that moat. Those are the only two guaranteed recipes. There's no guarantee, but there's a better probability of success with those type of recipes than perhaps being competitor focused or landscape focused, and so forth and so on. So coming back to your question, I think companies need to figure out how to be more and more omnichannel in the future. I hear this word a lot. At the same time, I think you all will recognize if I ask you for 5 omnichannel retailers, I don't think we can actually name them. So in that way, it's a bit of a unicorn. Everybody's heard about it. Nobody's really seen what a tremendous what a tremendous omnichannel retailer or e-tailer looks like. And I think those that crack that code, where they transcend customer demographic, psychographic across their preference modes, will essentially end up winning for the long term.
I agree with you. It really is just shopping.
Yeah.
So Chewy serves diverse pet owners, from cats and dog parents to farm animals and iguanas even. How does Chewy tailor its approach to meet the unique needs of these customer segments?
Yeah, this is a very good question. I think we do it by So Chewy, just for context, we're a $12 billion retailer. We serve 25% of America. So 25% of American households are our customers at this point. We're now operating in Canada as well. We're the number 1 share in e-com segment. Between us and Amazon, 90% of the e-commerce share, which is about 30% of the market, 35% of the market, is between these 2 companies today. On the health side of the house, we have number 1 market share. And so, so why do I mention those numbers? It's because to give you a sense for our scale, we're a fairly large retailer at this point. We're not a mom and pop shop. We're not a small specialty retailer. We're number 320 in the Fortune 500 list. This was 3rd year in the running, and we've been climbing up the ranks pretty steadily. So alongside that, so you might think, we have highly automated, scaled processes. But that's not the case at all. So in the culture of the organization, we are large, but we act small. And I feel that's a very important trait in companies that are looking to maintain this one-on-one relationship, or at least a personalized relationship with customers, which essentially is the base of your question. How is it that we're able to service dog and cat pet parents, as well as equine or bearded dragons and geckos? I mean, less than in the 100 million US households that have pets, less than 1 million likely have, geckos and bearded dragons and iguanas and guinea pigs combined, right? There's probably 10 million households that have equine. There's 70 million households that have dog and cat combined. So we could very easily just set ourselves up for scale and say, you know what, we're serving the needs of 90%, and therefore the rest 10% can just be covered within the 90%. We don't. Even today, we have no IVRs, automated voice lines when you call into our customer care. We don't have any productivity metrics for our customer care centers. We measure ourselves by metrics that are most indicative to customer experience, how quickly we pick up the phone. The agent can live on or stay on the phone as long as they want to solve a problem. Same thing with our vet clinics. We've approached our vet clinics from a mentality of creating a structure that emulates the best hospitality service companies, like a Four Seasons concierge, rather than a traditional vet clinic that you walk into. There's 2 here in Florida that we've opened already. You're welcome to experience it. And so I guess in that way, we're very true to this promise, as I was saying, behaviors of when we say we are customer-centric, we are truly customer-centric. We put our money where our mouth is. We have 24/7 100% US-based customer service. We refuse to outsource. We refuse to automate the front-end experience of it. At the same time, we are rigorously analytical and rigorously technical. And we've automated a lot of the back end We can show you via data that customers who interact with our customer care or who walk into a vet clinic have longevity and greater LTV, relative to the cohorts who have only interacted with us via our on-site platforms, and so forth and so on. And so when you have data like that, you're willing to invest behind each experiences, even if they're minute or unique, because we feel like ultimately they drive the moat, as I was talking about, and they solidify the moat. And that's how our engine works.
Pretty amazing. You shared that you're not using any form of automation for, let's say, customer service. You have people in real time, it sounds like, supporting customers. Are you using AI in any way to enhance the customer experience or for operational efficiency?
Yeah, no, we absolutely are. So don't let me fool you by, when I use words like we're big but we act small, or we don't have automation in the front end. Chewy has 25,000 people across the country at this time. We're the third largest distribution in the United States after Amazon and Walmart. So we have fairly sophisticated supply chain. Our entire supply chain is algorithmic. Our entire supply chain is half our fulfillment centers. We have 15 fulfillment centers across the country. Half of them are fully automated. And in the front end, we have so you asked about customer service. Where we're stepping into solving or helping or putting in pillars of AI are the following. So internally, we have a pretty strong focus on helping operations and agent workforce be more productive and be more efficient with their work. So we've utilized AI to be able to combine a lot of the softwares that we were using to be able to create an architecture that lets them consume information internally in a very productive manner. We're now moving to eliminate all of the note-taking that they do by automating all of the summarization, and then the dumping of that, and the notes being perpetually available from a continuous chain point of view. We've also invested in creating an enterprise-level voice of customer center that allows us to listen to customers across our channels of interaction on a constant basis to be able to react to it. Now think about it. If we could take that information, if we had, this is a customer service agent, if we could have a supply chain agent that is watching your delivery schedules, if we had a weather API, if we had a local API where you're staying, let's say Florida has a storm coming in, at some point in the future, you could expect these agents to interact with each other and trigger a response to that cohort of customers that is specifically living in Miami, because we foresaw that before. We foresaw that because it was integrated into our system. And yet when the customer called, we're there to answer their calls. So we haven't taken away the core of how customers interact with us. We've just taken technology and helped make it better in ways that can surprise and delight customers.
Are there any lessons learned that you can share as part of implementing these innovations?
I think you have to think about it in 2 or 3 different dimensions. One, is your culture ready for change? The reason we've seen so many airline companies move through the fiasco of customer service disruptions in the last 2 years is because they kept hacking architecture in the front end. Even those that had the best customer orientation, like a Southwest perhaps, they've always had really good front-end customer orientation. They've never really lost that, and I've really kind of admired that in that brand. Yet they never really invested in the back end to be able to modernize architecture. And so, and not because they don't have the money to do it. That's why I started with the point that your culture has to enable and your leadership has to recognize the importance of investments like these. So that's one. Number 2, you have to have a vision and the skill that needs to pair up to be able to translate this very quickly. The biggest war that is going on in companies right now, outside of those who are kind of young, modern, and truly just naturally understand, AI or agentic architectures is how do you do it? The COO wants it under their umbrella, and the CTO wants it under their umbrella, and the chief innovation officer wants to be a spokesperson for this type of technology, or the business development arm in the company. Ultimately, I think here at Chewy we kind of solved that debate, and I said, look, like I'm going to pull best people from the organization and have them report to me for a bit. And we'll set up the standardized protocols in a way that will empower everybody downstream to be autonomous, and you can move fast. But you can move fast because we will take away the confusion of whether you should use this LLM and this architecture and that service integration layer, et cetera. And as opposed to that, we'll say, we'll just create a bookshelf ready of books that when you have the application, you can just look up, pull the book from the bookshelf, and go implement it in your function per se. And so your organization has to create mechanisms and systems to promote innovation. That's a very big dilemma of large organizations and small organizations also sometimes. So I would probably think, or at least that's the framework that comes to my mind right now. If I think about it a little bit longer, maybe I'll come up with something else. But that's kind of what comes to mind right now.
No, thank you for sharing. So sustainability is a growing priority for e-commerce. There's so much waste that happens with packaging and even logistics. How is Chewy tackling this?
So you're right. Our investment in logistics is the largest impact from a sustainability point of view. So we've done a couple things. We've started with our fulfillment network, and we've essentially converted most of our fulfillment centers into consumers of green energy. So everything's solar, or a large portion of it is. And from there on, we started implementing technology that has allowed us to continue to densify the number of boxes that we've sent out. So over the last, and then the other thing that we've done is, because I was saying our supply chain is algorithmic, we've invested in building tech that allows us to model and place inventory in the closest way, in the closest node possible for the consumer. So if you look at the change over a 3-year period, we've moved from, if you look at the US is divided into 8 transportation zones. Zone 1 is the nearest, Zone 8 is the largest. And to give you context, if you ship from Florida to California, that's shipping from Zone 1 to Zone 8. So you can kind of like split the country in your head and get a sense for how this is. And so over a 3-year period, we've moved the volume of packages that used to move between Zone 1 through 4 from 45% to now 80% of our packages are delivered between Zones 1 and 4. And so imagine the savings there, or the contribution back to sort of carbon positive footprint. We've also allowed ourselves, with the technology that we're using, we've allowed densification of boxes. So where we were shipping an average of 3 units in one particular box, we've now densified that. We call it containerization. And our containerization has essentially increased to the tune of roughly 30-40% as well over the same amount of time. So we're doing our part, but ultimately, right now we are still moving trucks across the country. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon.
Do you think you'll be using AI in the future to support some of these aspects and initiatives?
I think the AI is going to be everywhere. I mean, it's going. So yes, I do believe so. How we will use it and where we will use it. I mean, we're already using AI for vision recognition and control in the fulfillment centers. We're using it to be able to create networks and do kind of simulations or run simulations in a manner. I mean, the biggest application of AI in the supply chain and fulfillment area is going to be the creation of digital twins, right? Where you can essentially, it moves from this world, for those of you who are familiar with supply chain, this world of where, industrial engineers would sit on a computer and run simulations, to, you having an exact proxy of your entire network so that you can model assumptions and plan assumptions and build it while sitting, in a control room. And then once you've achieved perfect scenarios, you can let your agents, not even people, you can let your agents deploy that perfect schedule and perfect fulfillment models into the fulfillment centers. I mean, it's going to drive so much densification. It's going to drive so much synergy and so much efficiency that right now we aren't able to even calculate the magnitude of something like this. Nobody has a digital twin. I mean, NVIDIA is ready with the architecture. I think Amazon's too big to build it at a point like this, and other companies are likely too small. We're hoping Chewy might be the first one that builds a digital twin over the next 3 to 5 years.
I want to thank you for sharing your insights with me.
Yeah.
And give the opportunity for the audience to ask any questions that they may have at this time.
Great. Easy questions only.
A microphone. Thank you.
I mean, you don't need it.
Yannick James from Bemire. My question is, where do you see your tech stack in the next 5 to 10 years?
In the next 5 to 10 years, I don't know where we will be in the next 10 years. I think it's changing too quickly. I can tell you the journey that we've taken, and that should give you an idea of how quickly we're innovating and moving from this point onwards. So in 2018, so Chewy is a 14-year-old company. So we're we're very young. We're still growing up. And so in 2018, we were a fully monolithic stack. We were fully on-prem. We had, data living in multiple sandboxes, and we had no data strategy, etc. So that was the state of the company just 5-6 years ago. And we weren't, a garage shop even then. We were probably $3.5 billion, probably serving 10% of the market, maybe. And so, since then, we've completely broken down the monolith. We're now, fully services-oriented architecture. In fact, our platform's fully single-page applications. So we have 10,000 lines of code instead of 1 million lines of code. We've been able to decentralize our tech, so we don't have centralized tech anymore. So we're able to, build and innovate in parallel. Underneath of that, we've essentially taken all of our on-prem and put it on cloud. We are dual sourced across the country, so we have full redundancy in the cloud. And so we're building in containers and essentially replicating containers to be able to get perfect utilization, or not perfect, but high utilization levels. And then from a data strategy point of view, we've completely sort of, pulled out, Vertica and moved completely to architectures like Snowflakes and so forth and so on.
Right.
I think where we're going is, we're setting ourselves now, we're rethinking our data and AI strategy. And so we're moving from, on data, we're moving from relational databases to knowledge graphs, we're moving to LLMs, we're moving to agentic architectures. And we believe our tech is such that it'll allow us to be able to sustain the next 3 to 5 years of growth without fundamentally changing the tech stack. And we'll think about it after that.
I think that's a great plan, considering like flexibility and being agile is super important right now, right? Like a year ago, we were not discussing AI, and now it's every other discussion, right? Yep. So I just want to say thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Good question.
Anyone else with a question? Nice. Anyone else with a question? Just raise your hand so I know what to move over. I'm going to move to there next. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Hi, I have 2 questions, if I may. If I remember what you said earlier, you're using AI in the back end of the business. Let's say on the front end, you're still using human agents. Is this something that you've actually tested AI for? Where's my order? How fast is it going to ship? FAQs that you have data on that says, no, I need to stick here. I guess kind of what's your forward thinking on that longer term? And my second question would just be in general. I have to imagine your life, you have a lot of stress, a lot of responsibilities. What does a day of your life look like as far as how you structure your day? Do you have routines that kind of keep you grounded? What do you do to get through that part of being a leader in a business like that?
I appreciate the question. Thank you. On the AI side, So what I didn't complete, I guess, the thought at that time, and I'm glad that you reminded me. So on our website, we're automating capabilities like search. We're, personalizing the website, looking at all of the information that customers are providing us. And so this is the journey that we're undertaking right now. But your question is actually very interesting. Your question, I think, is more towards, well, if you haven't, like, why are you sticking with the human side of the equation if you haven't truly tested and know sort of what the back is? That kind of where you're going with this? Yeah. Yeah. How do you kind of make the call? It's actually a very good question. So we're not. I guess some part of this you would just call it a leader's intuition and some adamance around the fact that customers value personalized human touch in a category like pet. This is a super emotive category. 40% of our customers are above the age of 55. A lot of kids set up their parents for service with us because they know that when their parent calls, somebody's on the other side, a happy agent that really knows about dogs and will talk to your mom for 40 minutes if she wants to. And an AI agent can't do that. And so some part of this is just a leader's intuition that what we have here is magic. And we've just got to protect and preserve that regardless of what data tells you or what the best consultants tell you or what perhaps sometimes even your own mind tells you. So the heart needs to win over the mind in kind of arguments like these. I'll give you another one. We invest. So we don't have, up until 2 years ago, we had no CRM department, customer relationship management, no CRM in marketing. Our CRM ran out of customer care, and the mechanisms that we used are essentially partnering with hundreds and thousands of local artists across the country that draw pet portraits, or sending birthday cards, sending flowers when pets pass away. Nobody does that. So we try to be with you in the highs and lows of pet parenting. And let me tell you, this portrait that I'm talking about, these live portraits portraits that these painters are painting, you cannot buy them. This is not a product that we're selling. This is a surprise and delight mechanism that shows up to your doorstep. And for the pet parents in this room, if you get a hand-drawn pet portrait of your pet, right, I have you for life. You're going to talk about it at dinner tables. You're going to talk about it at picnics. You're going to share that story with 100 friends, etc., etc. And by the way, when I make a mistake the next time with your order, you're going to forgive me. So the forgiveness ratio that our brand has is actually really high. So anyway, so I'm digressing, but I'm actually hitting your point. This is one of the reasons why we've never sort of said, you know what, we should outsource our customer service over there because it's 30 cents cheaper. We don't think of our CS as a cost center. We think of it as a revenue generation center. We think of it, our agents are helping customers place orders. They're helping, subscribe customers to our AutoShip subscription service. They're signing up customers for insurance. And so it's very much a model that has a concierge type of spirit built in. Now, at the same time, my daughter's 9, right? When she wants to interact with Chewy 5 years from now, you think she's going to want to pick up the phone and call me? No. No. So I have to figure out how I service this next, gen of customers who are super savvy in interacting with platforms, and how we develop service on the front end that essentially gives them an option to interact with the type of service that we're talking about here. So I think it's a challenge that we need to figure out. So that's like one part of your answer. The second part of your question, I find, I don't know if I will satisfy your curiosity on days. I guess all of us are very busy. It's not like my day is any busier than yours because we have the same amount of time and we're all able to do a certain amount of things in a certain amount of time. So I guess it comes down to a ruthless compartmentalization, ruthless prioritization. It also comes down to how I structure my day. I'm an early riser. I'm generally up around 5 latest. I find that time to be extremely peaceful. It's when I do my reading. It's kind of when I'm, perhaps consuming my emails or reading my newspapers and so forth and so on. So by the time I show up to work, I'm fully caught up. Work's mostly in meetings per se, or in meetings. And then I guess I'm always on, but I have never really thought of my work as impeding sort of my life priorities. So in that way, I'm lucky to have a family that can be equally supportive. And I guess when work doesn't feel like work, you can kind of keep it going while at the same time I try to go play soccer on Sunday morning or Thursday evenings because that's just what I like. I like to spend time with my daughter when she comes home. And now with, post-COVID world, it's easy. Like, I actually like to be home at 4:35 so that I can see her, and I'll spend the next couple of hours with her. She's go to bed, and I'll go back to work. So I don't think I'm doing anything different than what most of you are doing. I guess you just have to have the ability to take it in a stride and take the stresses that come alongside it.
Give me just one moment. I promised we were going to hand over this way.
Hi, I've really enjoyed what you had to say today. And I'm just curious, what pet do you have at your house?
Oh, people ask me, do you have a pet? And my response is, if I didn't, I would have to rent one. So yes, we have a Shih Tzu, an 11-year-old, and which tells you that I had the Shih Tzu before I got into Chewy. So that's a good check mark also. And his name is D, just the letter D. It's short form for dragon, which is really odd because he's just this cute 18-pound Shih Tzu. Has no bone of ferocity in him. But yeah, and right now we're thinking of bringing home another puppy, so that's a pretty big discussion in the household.
It's a bit of a lighthearted question. We've been buying your products for years. I'm right here. My wife and I have always wondered, do you guys scent your boxes? Because our dogs know immediately when the Chewy box is there. Any box you come in, they'll ignore it. You bring in the Chewy box, even if there's not treats in it, they know it's there and they'll key in on it. Just curious if you guys do something to your packages that make the animals know.
I will go back and ask my operations team what it is that they're spraying on the boxes when they leave. But thank you. We appreciate you being a customer, and please give your pets some belly rubs from us.
Love it, love it. Anyone else with the questions? Yeah, nice. By the way, if any of you are interested in this scent marketing, take a look at why most Apple stores or why Nike boxes, when you open them, all smell the same. A little bit of an interesting tidbit.
I'm just curious if this whole food new product like Ollie and Naked Farmer, if they're disrupting Chewy, and do you guys have a plan for dealing with them, putting them out of business, or no? Just kidding.
It's so there's what he's talking about is so far the form factor. So there hasn't been too much innovation in food form factor. You have the dry kibble, you have the vet food that came out perhaps 15 years ago, and since that there's just been mostly flavor or format additions. The pate will change to shreds and so forth and so on, but no fundamental innovation. And so, in the last 5 or 7 years or so, there have been what we call these alternate categories. They're dehydrated food, sort of like fresh food, or imagine yourself sort of like shredded, at least for those of you who are not vegetarian, not vegetarian. Imagine like shredded chicken with some carrots and peas, and now, this mentality of pets are family, so they should eat as well as we do, and so why not have fresh food, consumed by our pets? So that's what he's talking about. So there are a few companies that have come out and are really trying to, disrupt the space. And I think this is a form factor that is growing quite rapidly. And it's taking share. It is not taking share from Chewy per se. It is taking share from vet food. And the vet food market is gravitating towards the fresh food market because it's mostly similar type of food format. So we assort, outside of 1 or 2 niche brands that are out in the market, we assort mostly all of the others on our platform. We are also currently working on, our own kind of recipe that we believe customers will be super excited to receive when we launch them here in the next few months. So we believe this form factor is here to stay. And yeah, it's going to be consumer preference, but we'll be there to serve you.
Ladies and gentlemen, last question of the night. Be the one to take us home here. You've just done such an amazing job. Everyone's like, wow, he's answered everything.
Thank you.
Right? Ladies and gentlemen, can you please give a big round of applause for the two of them very quickly here? Right. If you could stick on the stage for one quick moment. Actually, Ravi, can we get you on stage as well? Can we grab one photo of the two of you, please?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, here. The two of you. Photographer. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. Just the two of them first, yeah.
Where's the photographer?
Ravi, let's get you on stage as well.
Thank you.
Just one more moment. Let's get one with Ravi real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the awkward part of the promotion side of everything, right?
Hi, Ravi. Okay.
Okay, selfishly, I also want to grab one quick one if I could as well, please. Y'all, ladies and gentlemen, come on. Ladies and gentlemen, give him a big round of applause right now.